What's up, everybody? All right, got a couple of things I want to cover today. First one is another update on my situation here with my truck. And second, which is the main point of this video, will be to talk more about the question in Facebook that produced the recent video I just put up about the Trucking 101 thing about HOS management. Got into the kind of a sidebar discussion with a very experienced driver who apparently didn't know what angle I was coming from there and decided to throw his 38 years of experience in trucking around and basically tell me that I'm wrong. But, like, why the hell would you do why would you manage your clock the way you just described? I sure as hell wouldn't. I've only got 5.5 years experience, and I'm not. I mean, that's not what I was suggesting here. Which I'll get into that. I'm going to go into some of the detail on that and kind of show you a little graphic on that. But first things first, let's talk about what's going on with my truck. Okay, it's Wednesday night right now. My truck is hopefully going to be done anytime now with the clutch slave cylinder and hose or whatever the hell it was they said they were going to change. I know the slave cylinder was one of the parts. They still have to do the PM and lube, which will be happening sometime tonight, I assume, after the clutch work is done. And after the PM is done, they were originally supposed to work on the sleeper HVAC problem too, but I told them they're dragging their feet in the mud too long, so I told them don't worry about that. So they said, well, you're going to have to get with your breakdown people because your breakdown people already approved it. So this morning I sent an email to my breakdown people and asked them, can you just have them take the sleeper HVAC problem off the to-do list, because these guys are taking way too long just for the clutch problem alone. And the sleeper HVAC problem is just a minor issue. I only really need that HVAC system back there when it's too hot for my APU to stay running. And we're starting to get into the later part of August. It's going to start cooling down some here, and then other parts of the country tend to cool down a little bit faster than it does here anyway. So how badly do I really need that? Not really. It'd be nice to have just as a backup for when my APU decides to not want to work right. But as long as it's not too hot, my APU works fine. So I'm not too concerned about it. And I'd like to get back out on the road. Like I said, I was supposed to be out on the road on Sunday, and here it is Wednesday. I'm still sitting waiting on the damn clutch. Or not the clutch, but the slave cylinder. Okay, so now let's talk about this conversation, this Trucking 101 conversation I had on the recent video here. So I showed you how a person had asked the question or about they kind of wanted to do a 34-hour reset before instead of picking up a load, but they got asked to pick up a load when they only had 7 hours left on their 70-hour clock, and they were getting 245 back that same night, and then 350 back the following night. And their DEM wanted them to pick up a load, I think in Ohio, going to Denver. And they said that they were going to need 18 hours to work with to get to Denver, but they only had the 7 already, and then those recaps I talked about. So that's what this is going to be about. And also, there is kind of a general tendency with truckers to pull this crap where they like to throw their weight around with how much experience they have. Not saying there's anything wrong with having good experience, and there's a lot that an experienced driver can teach, but just because you're experienced, even in this guy's case, 38 years, said he'd been driving since 1983, doesn't mean that you're an all-knowing authority on something. Yeah, it might be misreading something, or maybe you don't have as much, even though you've been driving for that long, how much experience do you have with something specific? It's something I always say, people, always hear and see people talk about online. This ain't my first rodeo. It's like, okay, yeah, so you've been a rodeo clown for 30 years. Does that make you any kind of an expert on riding bulls? I mean, like I say, it might not be your first rodeo, but if you've never actually been on the back of a bull, then I mean, if you only watched other people do it for 30 years, and how does that make you an expert? I've been a baseball fan for all my life, been a Dodgers fan for all my life. And does that make me an expert on hitting or pitching or playing any other position? Oh, hell no. You get me out there in a major league ballpark and trying to swim. Oh, hell no. I'd be terrible. I mean, look at some of the other people who've been gifted pros like Michael Jordan. Now, he tried to do Major League Baseball for a bit at one point in time, and it didn't work out. So my point stands there. Just because you have a lot of experience watching from the side, you know, or doing some other activity as part of the function, doesn't mean that you are a foremost authority on every damn thing there is to know about rodeos or baseball or whatever the hell the topic is, or trucking in this case. So that's kind of what I want to talk about on this one. Is it's good to have experience and to be able to share knowledge and your own experiences with anecdotes with other drivers, but don't act like you know everything there is to know possible about trucking and that there's nothing anybody else can teach you. Um, doesn't matter if the other driver has 1 year of experience or 10 years of experience or you have 30 or 40. It doesn't matter. You can always learn something new. Okay. So that's kind of what I'm going to cover here. I got the name redacted on there. I don't necessarily need to be calling this guy out. He's probably a very well respected driver for good reason, but just human. And maybe misreading things or misunderstanding what my point was or something. We'll put it that way. Okay. I'm going to give him some benefit of doubt. I'm not here to slam him or call him out or make him look like an idiot. He might not be one at all, but there is one of these. This is one of these cases where don't throw your weight around just because you have that weight. So the fact you have, in this guy's case, you have 38 years of experience is irrelevant. Numbers are numbers. It doesn't matter what your experience is. What's my experience with this? Running on recaps or doing 34s or doing strategic 34s or stuff and understanding how things work from the dispatch side of things. Even though I've never been a dispatcher, that can all make a big difference. And you can talk to my own dispatcher, some of the planners that I deal with regularly, and they'll tell you what their thoughts on me are. So I'm not trying to super trucker myself here, though. It's just I understand things, and that's what I'm doing here is trying to help you guys all understand things. If you're not so experienced drivers, or maybe even if you are an experienced driver but just want to hear a different perspective on things and are willing to learn something new, even if it's from someone who might have less experience in it. All right, so let's with that said, let's go on some of these numbers. All right, guys, so just to give you a little bit of context on what the original poster of the question, what information he did provide for us to work with, what you see here is right here. Again, today is Wednesday, but the person asked the question on Monday evening, about 6:30 or whatever time it was. And I'm kind of putting this into just kind of a visual, make it a little more sense to you arrangement here. So Monday, he only had about 7 hours. Could have been 7 and change, but he only said 7. So we'll assume he had at least 7 hours, but no more, to work with all day Monday to go pick the load up. Now Tuesday, he had 2:45 in recaps coming in, or that's Monday night at midnight going into Tuesday at 2:45, which meant for Tuesday he would have had 9:45 to work with. And then Wednesday, or Tuesday night at midnight going into Wednesday, he was getting back 3:50. Which gave him 13:35 total to work with, which is not enough to work with to get to Denver. All right, so here's where it starts out with. The other driver said, or had basically suggested to the original poster, driver, you should have shut down the day you called in once you delivered, picked up, and did your 34-hour reset. If you don't have hours to get to Denver, why even leave? Wake up with a fresh 70 and a new start. You have to learn how to use the ELD for your benefit. Once you learn the rules, you can win the game. All right, so my response to him, obviously here, And whose name is on the side of the truck, his or somebody else's? If it's not his, then it's in his best interest to do whatever needs to be done within limits. He still had enough hours between his 7+ hours that were still on his 70, and plus the 2.5 hours of recaps to run a 9-hour shift. If he said he'd need 18 hours to get to Denver, then that tells me he could have gotten the load halfway to Denver before shutting down, then doing his 34 hours there with or without a swap. The alternative is the carrier risks losing the load itself to another carrier and also increases the risk of them losing that route altogether later on. All right, so this person gets back with me later this evening, goes, Scott, before you decide you're going to check me, do your math, bro. The best option is for him to pick up his load Monday and go off duty the rest of Monday and Tuesday and get up and run Wednesday and deliver sometime Thursday. What you're saying is he won't deliver until Friday. It's 6:30 p.m. Monday when he posted, so he has 7 hours to drive when he called dispatch after he delivered. So we don't know what time he picked up the load going to Denver. But either way, that put him off duty around 1:30 a.m. Tuesday morning. He goes off duty for a 10-hour break, starts driving Tuesday morning at 11:30 for 2 hours and 45 minutes, so he drives until 2:15 p.m. or 14:15. Now he goes back off duty for his 10, and that takes him to 12:15 or 00:15 a.m. Wednesday. He now drives his 3:50 until 4 a.m. and Wednesday, 34-hour reset. If everything goes perfect, he can start driving at 2 p.m. Thursday for 9 hours. He will not be able to deliver until Friday if everything goes perfect. So before you start thinking you know everything, do your homework. When I said I'll make my delivery a day before you, this is why I make money. I've been doing this since 1983. Now go do your homework and let me know how this works for you. Now this guy's obviously a little confused on what I said there, and adding in 10-hour breaks that don't need to be put in there. Basically put in a 10 in where I would have been doing a 34. So he's completely confused, and I thought I made it pretty damn clear from this comment what I meant by that. Still had enough hours to run a 7 plus a 2.5 to run a 9-hour shift. Okay, he would have had half of the 18 hours needed to get to Denver knocked out, in which case he would have had a 9-hour shift remaining, or a roughly 9-hour shift remaining, which could be done in one shift. All right, and then do his 34 wherever he ran out of his hours there. So I'm going to talk about this, the bottom paragraph here, after I'm done giving you all these graphics. All right, so I responded to him. I think you need to do a better job with your own homework. For one, I'm a math whiz and regularly run on recaps. What happened Monday night at midnight and before he would have ran out of hours? He would have gotten those 2:45 recaps back while still running a 7-hour plus shift. Means he would have been able to do a full 9-hour plus shift that night. He'd be dead in the water until close to midnight the next night, at which point he was only getting back 350 to work with. If you can't even run half a shift, and it also won't get you to receiver when you're also now already within reach of the receiver within a regular single shift, it's better to just stay put and do the 34 where he would have run out of hours. That would have put him in position to roll with a fresh 70 Wednesday around midday or early afternoon. Then he could be in Denver later Wednesday night, if they didn't already find a swap to take over his load for him while on the 34. Now you owe me some lunch sometime and somewhere. Okay, so I was trying to inject a little bit of lighthearted, I'm not trying to be a dick about this. I'm not trying to be a troll or anything, but hey, be cool about it. You screwed up. You did your math wrong and you misread what I said. And, hey, I'm not a dick. I'm not a dick. Well, let's go meet up, and I'll generally be willing to do something like that. But this is just one of those examples which I can tell you so many. I can write a book about the instances I've had where drivers I've had this many years of experience around and really don't know what they're talking about. There are plenty of other drivers out there who do have experience, and when they talk, I listen. One particular driver at Sierra England who's got 24, 25 years of experience now. He's one of those guys, so I listen because I've seen plenty of proof where when he talks, he knows what he's talking about. He's terse online, but get him in person, and yeah, he'll be a lot more talkative. And he's definitely, I can tell he knows what he's talking about, even as terse as he is online. And he's one of those, yeah, I listen, even if I'm a know-it-all type. All right, so um, it's just one of those cases here. Get the load picked up and get it moving down the road. As if you don't, what happens is now nobody's there to pick the load up, and what'll happen is the shipper will say, "Well, screw you guys. We're gonna give this load to another carrier instead of you guys." So now your company no longer has a load available to pick up for anybody. And if too much of that kind of thing goes on, what'll happen is the customer will say, yeah, you guys have too bad a habit of not picking up loads at all or on time or whatever. We keep having to give them away to other carriers. So guess what? We're going to go ahead and take this route away from you and give it to somebody else and see if they can do a better job with it. And that's how market share and freight lanes work. Now, you need to be consistently good service at the company level to keep those lanes running. And the more you end up losing lanes, the more the drivers with your company end up losing possible miles, because now there are fewer and fewer routes that are available for your company's trucks to run, because you guys did such a shitty job of making your company look good that now they can't keep the routes that the contract lanes they already have set up. So there's a short term and a long term cause and effect here that go on, and if you're only looking at the short term, which is what 99% of all truckers seem to do, and also add in their shitty math skills, just tends to happen. People don't get how things actually work, and that's where getting this big picture, the long term cause and effect on things can make a big difference. I don't know any good successful business out there that doesn't have a good long-term business plan set up. They're going to take short-term sacrifices, but if they're going to do short-term sacrifices, they're doing it with the purpose of long-term gain in mind. So look at that big picture. If you want more miles, consistently good miles, and keep doing what you can to make your company look better as much as possible. Put them in a position where they can possibly succeed with that load. Even if you can't succeed with that load yourself, so what? Get it picked up, moving down the road. Worst case, it shows up late, not your fault. Gets rescheduled, not your fault. It's the company's fault. And but best case, you get it down the road somewhere where another driver can repower it and maybe get it delivered on time, and now you look good for your company, and the company also looks good for the customer as well. And then there's a better chance they'll keep that freight lane up there, and then even get more freight lanes on top of it because they're looking so good. All right, so good example here with Walmart. JCT, which you guys know is a carrier I drive for. I think it's now 4 years in a row that Walmart has declared JCT or awarded JCT as their number one reefer carrier 4 years in a row, out of all the other companies that deal with them. And you'll see the evidence of it. You go to the Walmart distribution center in Colton, you see us all over the place there. On any given day there, you see at least half a dozen to a dozen of us there. And my understanding is we have a good 90 or so loads that get picked up there per day. Literally, you could easily see a dozen of us there, and that's just one customer. And you see a whole bunch of our trailers sitting in their drop lot or dock doors too. So that's the effect of that. Say what you want about Walmart, but the fact is, JCT does a great job of looking great for Walmart as a whole. Our drivers make them look good, make JCT look good. So Walmart rewards JCT with more and more freight lanes. I know one that I've been hearing more of our drivers starting to do recently that I've never done before, never heard about doing before, was a load that goes up to Tolma, Wisconsin, kind of over in between, was it Madison and Eau Claire or whatever it was, I forget, somewhere up there on I-90. Right around where I-90 is at. So that's just one of those examples. We just picked up that freight lane. Okay, that's a brand new DC, if I understand correctly. And again, I've never been there. I just recently started hearing about our drivers starting to go there, and it seems like at least once a week I'm hearing our drivers do that load. So, and that's what good service does. It picks you up more freight lanes, and then more freight lanes means more miles for you guys to run as well. All right, so that covers that part about good customer service skills, whether it just means you pleasing your carrier a lot more. Because remember, whose name's on the side of that truck you're driving? Is it your own or is it someone else's? My truck says John Christner Trucking on it. It doesn't say Scott Zane Trucking or Zane Transporter or whatever other fictitious business name I decide I want to put on the side of it. It's not my authority to operate. It's JCT's. So it behooves me to do what I can to make JCT look good as a carrier. It makes me look good with them, and then there's a better chance if I do leave, it's going to be on really good terms, which I don't really plan to leave at any time anytime soon. But just my point is though, leave on good terms if you're going to leave at all, and then do what you can to make them look good, because if you make them look good, they're going to do what they can to make you look good as well. All right. So that covers that. Just want to, I guess, talk about a couple more antidotes, or not antidotes. This isn't a cure to a disease. Anecdotes. Basically a single story about a certain topic. Basically, that's the difference there. All right, so I had another one where in the JCT Facebook group, we had a discussion a while back, several months back. A driver was having problems with his Qualcomm unit. After we'd been doing some system updates there on the Qualcomm, it was pretty common for the Qualcomm units when they got through firing up to say, please wait. And when you see please wait, you're naturally, when you're looking at a computer and it says, please wait, what do? Okay, I'll wait. It's doing what it's doing. When it's done, it'll get rid of that screen and go back to normal. Okay, problem is when this screen would pop up, it would not go away. Basically, the system was ready for your inputs, but it never got rid of the please wait screen, so it confused the drivers. And I've had this happen several times myself to my own truck. Anyway, someone asked about this, like they showed the picture of the please wait screen and asked, what do I do? Okay, so there were different inputs given, but the two best inputs that I saw given were from myself and from another driver named Richard. But she's a very well-known TikToker as well. If you guys don't know him, Trucker Rich, something like that. I don't. You guys know I'm not so big on TikTok, but he has he's got a big TikTok following. He and I had what, in my opinion, was the best input. So mine. Now my input was based on an accidental experience I had with this. My typical fix for problems with my Qualcomm would be to call the Omnitrax tech support phone number, which is on speed dial on my phone, and use the computer prompts there to do a forced reset of my Qualcomm unit when it freezes up or locks up or whatever like that. Okay, so, but in order to do that, you got to know the serial number of the unit. And on the unit number, the serial number is on a decal on the back side of that unit. So I had to take it out of the cradle, look at the back of it, and see what the unit number was. Now I have mine memorized, but sometimes the very last digit on it I forget. Like I get mixed up between whether it's a 5 or an 8. And otherwise I know the entire number. That's kind of how good I am at remembering numbers, and then also how often I've had to deal with this problem specifically with resetting my Qualcomm. All right, so anyway, I'm trying to force reset it, and then while doing so, and I'm picking up the thing out of the cradle, my palm of my hand here, I guess touched the touch screen. So while I'm here looking at the back side of it, double checking my serial number, I see what it says, and when I start putting it back in the cradle, I realize it's back to normal. So like, oh, that's interesting. So I caught on that me touching the screen with my palm must have had something to do with it. And the future instances of this please wait problem happening, sure enough, I just go to tap the screen to see what happens, and yeah, that's all it ever took. Just goes right back to normal as soon as I did that. Now, Rich, his advice was just hit the home button, and he says it always works for him. That's a very easy fix as well. I'm like, so okay, if I ever see this problem again, I'm going to give that a try. I thought I've tried that before and it didn't work, but I could be wrong. But he said it worked for him, and it's an incredibly easy fix. If that is actually a good fix, at least works for him. So I was like, yeah, that's good advice, and that's something I just learned from him. That, like I said, it's been a while since I've seen this problem, but if I do see it again, then I know I'm going to experiment, maybe hit the home button just to see if there's something to what he said there. So it's where I catalog stuff for future use. You never know when it might be of value to you at some point in the future. Anyway, after we gave our inputs, a couple of days later, another driver decides to put in some input, give some input on that question, saying unplug the Qualcomm unit, wait 15 minutes, and then plug it back in. Okay, I was driving about 5 years by the time this happened, and I had no idea where the Qualcomm unit even really plugged in. All I know is my Qualcomm is over here in the middle of my dashboard area, and the cord goes underneath the wainscoting right in the middle of my dash area, back somewhere, who knows where, I don't know. I thought, for all I knew, it could have been going into the firewall area or something. I don't know. But, when I took my truck to the shop in, it was in January or in April. One of those two. Oh, no, it was January because I was in Tulsa. The truck was getting worked on in Tulsa, and then I drove it on paper logs because Fontana they had a COVID outbreak. The Kenworth dealer where my truck's at right now. At that point in time, they had a COVID outbreak and didn't have most of their staff there to do the work. That was piling up. So I said, all right, just go ahead and put the truck back together. I'll get it to Tulsa and take it to the dealer there and see if I can get it worked on there, where I can also get into a loaner truck and actually do something useful and make money with while I'm waiting on my truck to get fixed. So get it to Tulsa. I get it back from the shop, and my Qualcomm is still offline, or won't turn on. Like I don't know. I thought it was a fuse or something else going on. So I ended up taking it back from basically on paper logs again from the dealer to our terminal in Sapulpa, which is about right over 20 miles away, or no, 11 miles away from the dealer. And get over to the shop there, check in, and I tell them, hey, my Qualcomm's still offline. So they said, all right, we'll go ahead and pull it up in front of Bay 6, and I'll be right over there to fix you up. So I get over in front of Bay 6, and one of our other mechanics there, who I know, I'm friendly with. I know his name, and he knows mine and all that. And he was over in kind of the little picnic smoke area, whatever you want to call it, right next to their building. I go up there just to BS with him while I'm waiting on the other guy, Carl, to show up to hook my Qualcomm back up. And he's asking me, this guy's name's Anthony. He's asking me, hey, is your Qualcomm still offline? And I go, yeah. Carl told me to go ahead and pull up to Bay 6 and wait for him to come out. So he said, let me take a look. It says real easy. Let me just take a quick look. And said, yeah, go ahead and hop in your truck real quick, and I'll check it. So I hop in, and he doesn't even get in the truck. All he has to do is, with my driver's door open, go right by my kick panel on the A-pillar where my fuse panel is right down there, and my OBD2 port and all that. And there's a big-ass Canon plug right there that plugs into something else, and little did I know that was the plug for my Qualcomm. So all I had to do to get my Qualcomm back up and running was plug that thing back in. Here I was driving for 5 years. I never knew that. And I'm a lot more resourceful and inquisitive, and I like to learn how systems are designed. Systems laid out a lot more than the average person does. Mind you, I also have prior aircraft maintenance background, and that was my job to do, was learn systems so I could effectively troubleshoot them myself. So anyway, I now 5 years of driving. I just barely learned this then, and I never stopped learning. So this guy gives a suggestion that took me 5 years to figure out, and that wasn't until shortly after he even gave this advice. And I'm thinking, how many drivers do we have here, even more experience than I do, who don't even have a clue where that thing plugs in at? And how many other drivers do we have who maybe have a similar or even less experience than me, don't have a clue where the thing plugs in at? All they know is that it's supposed to be working. They don't know where the hell the plug's at. So I gave this guy a hard time. Yeah, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but like, one of my pet peeves when you're on social media is not reading other comments before adding your 2 cents. Because why bother adding your 2 cents if there are already 100 other comments there giving the same input? Do you really think that you need to be adding to the problem there and having a thread with 900 comments in there and 600 of them all say the same damn answer? And then when that happens, you just look like a fucking idiot who's too damn lazy to read even a little bit. Even just scroll through like a very short number of answers to see if someone else has already given the answer you've given or that you want to give. It's that simple. So anyway, I gave this guy a hard time. Why don't you read the other comments first before adding in your input? And I was like, this is a ridiculous idea. So he gets indignant about it. And he starts going at it back and forth with some other guy who I'm not friends with. We'll put it that way. Who I had blocked for a while. Anyway, they both get to talking trash about me, and then the guy who I was having the argument with was pulling this. I've been at this for 24, 26 years or whatever the hell it is. I don't remember how long it's been, but it's over 2 decades of experience. And he said, yeah, and I kind of have an idea what I'm talking about here, kind of thing. And it's like, well, apparently you don't, because if you're giving stupid advice like that, regardless of how much experience, then there's a much easier fix. Just tap your damn screen. That tells me you're giving stupid advice. Sorry, I don't care what kind of experience you have. That might be it might be a doable fix, but is it practical or efficient? No, not in the least bit. So that's why I just said, you could have learned something by reading first. And so this guy got butthurt about me calling him out on that. And I'm one of those. I put my foot in my mouth sometimes, and don't really care if people like me or don't like me. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I do come across as one at times. And this isn't just my point here with why I'm bringing this up was because this guy brought up his 24 years, 26, whatever the hell it was, years of experience. But and then I add to this, okay, you got 24 years of full all over trucking experience. How much of it's reefer? How much of it's flatbed? How much of it's drive-in or whatever else, tanker? All right, whatever. He might have more overall experience in trucking than I do, or even have more experience in certain areas of the country than I do. And I'm going to give him that respect that, hey, he's going to be a resource I'll turn to if there's something specific that I know he has more experience with than I do. But when it comes to computer stuff, come on now. I've had computers in my house since I was a kid. Back from Atari and Commodore 64, write my own programs for games and stuff. And, mind you, I've also done computer science major in college as well. So I have a very strong technical background. And I understand how computer technology works a lot better than the average person does. I've even taken computer programming classes, C++, assembly language, what else? Some others, DOS. Well, DOS isn't really a program, but it's an operating system, but still. Working with syntax and, which basically doing things a proper way and, things like that is, it's like secondhand nature to me. And now you got this guy who's older than me and probably not so technically savvy as me either. And obviously doesn't have the specific experience with this Qualcomm problem that I have. And he's wanting to throw his experience around where it didn't belong. And that's why I say if you're an experienced trucker, be careful how you use this. I mean, there is a modicum of respect that is due to you if you have a certain level of experience, but it doesn't mean that you're a god and that you don't know. It doesn't mean that you don't know everything there is to know about anything and everything trucking related, right? Don't be afraid to learn something from someone who doesn't have quite so much overall trucking experience as you. Yeah. As I told this guy, it's okay. So if you got 20 years of, yeah, if you were in medicine, if you were 20 years as a family practitioner, and I had 5 years as a cardiologist, and you have a heart problem, which one of us would you rather be going to get your heart problem looked at? Hello, the cardiologist who does nothing but heart issues. Versus the guy who looks at anything and everything and like removes bunions or gives medicine for gout or migraines or shit like that, right? So, and I'm not trying to troll you guys who have a lot of experience. I'm just saying, get rid of that mentality. Yeah, don't throw your weight around. I've been doing this for so many years, and sometimes I catch myself making this mistake myself as well, and including my aircraft maintenance background. 20 years in aircraft maintenance. I know a thing or two about, because I've seen a thing or two when it comes to aircraft maintenance stuff. That's how I knew exactly what kind of problem I had with my clutch system on my truck this week, or that's been going on. I've known it was probably a hydraulic issue all along, but you can have a lot of drivers with a lot more experience might not even know that because it's what kind of experience do they have. Uh, Another thing, maybe they might have a certain experience with a certain type of problem that always seems to be a certain cause. Okay, they're worth listening to. Maybe I don't have it. Maybe I have 20 years of experience, but I've never had an experience with that particular type of problem, and this is where I can rely on them for input. Right. So I do also want to add in here, without making this video too excessively long, it's kind of, but this can open up a can of worms for some of you guys with training process. Um, when it comes to trainers and trainees and what the ideal trainer should be in terms of experience and what reality is, those are two different things. I kind of want to talk about that. Okay, the ideology is trainers should have at least 2 or 3 years of experience. And a lot of people agree on that part. I agree. Ideally, that's how that would be a perfect world as well. But when you have so many new drivers coming to the industry and only so many trainers with the ideal amount of experience or type of experience to train all these people, it's not enough to keep up with the demand. So what do? You lower the standard. We need drivers with less than 2 or 3 years of experience because we can't keep up with how many new drivers this industry needs. So these bigger companies like CR England and I don't know what Swift's policy is, or Knight or whoever. I think all of them tend to have a 6 to 12-month experience background requirement to become a trainer. That sounds like nothing at all. And to an extent, it can be, but it really depends. My opinion, it's less an issue with how much or little experience the driver has as it is what kind of quality control process does the company's training program itself have. You can have a trainer who's only got 6 to 12 months experience, but it was very well trained by an experienced driver and is very thorough with their job and is teaching good habits. And you can have another driver with 30 plus years who has bad habits and is teaching their trainee bad habits. Which one of those do you think will be a better trainer for you? I'm going with the guy with 6 to 12 months. There was a guy who, I don't know if he's even still drives for us, but I had a conference call conversation with him and a mutual friend one night and talked about how he talked about how he was too fat to get underneath his trailer to do a visual inspection of his fifth wheel when he hooks up to a trailer. So, like, yeah, you're going to drop a trailer someday. Because there's this mentality, do a tug test. Well, tug test isn't necessarily going to stop you from dropping a trailer. It just means that either your trailer brakes are working fine and there's friction between the fifth wheel and the apron of the trailer, or it really is latched, or both. So, and that's something else I just talked about. on Quora. Showed a picture of someone who dropped a trailer at Walmart DC in Colton that a friend of mine took just recently. Yeah, the same night I was there too, and he said they actually did a tug test, and they still dropped the trailer. But anyway, this driver, going back to without sidebar, talked about how he doesn't go underneath the look, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want you to teach him, Mike. Yeah, I don't think you should be teaching anybody how to do stuff. If you have that kind of habit, or if you can't be bothered to climb, if you can't look at your fifth wheel, you probably don't climb underneath your trailer axles also to take a look at brakes and airbags and stuff back there either. Do you think you should really be teaching somebody anything when you have those kind of habits? Oh, hell no. I don't care how much experience you have. So, again, don't let the amount of experience somebody does or does not have overall tell you whether they are or are not worth listening to when it comes to one thing or another, right? You don't know what kind of training they've had. They got 30 years of what I call bullshit training, bullshit knowledge, whatever, where they get taught this or that just because it's how it's always done. And it always seems to work. But then when something changes, like sliding tandems, all right, I was taught this, but every time the trailers always had 4-inch holes on them back then. Nowadays, trailers have 4 or 6-inch holes. And, the numbers you work with between the two are different, which I've talked about. So it's just an example there. Just because you have experience does not mean there's not capacity to learn something new there, regardless of how much or little experience you have. Always something new you can learn, all right? And like they always say in the industry, the day you stop learning is the day you need to turn your keys in and stop driving because you're a danger to yourself or to somebody else. All right, so that's all I have here. I know this is plenty enough ramble here, and just storytelling and give you guys an update and give you some more words of wisdom from my perspective, at least. Even if I only have 5 years experience, but it doesn't matter. What experience do I have to work with, or what have I picked up along the way, and who did I learn it from, and stuff like that. That's what you should be more concerned with, right? And that's where questioning people comes into play. I tend to be known as very argumentative and as a know-it-all for this reason. It's not that I'm a know-it-all necessarily. It's that if I want to know about something, I'm gonna put you through the ringer with questions on, and basically it seems like I'm challenging you on what you really do know. Because if you can't effectively sell me on going along with what your perspective is or what your knowledge is, then why should I listen to you? If you can effectively explain to me why, not just what goes on here, this is what I do and this is why I do it, then you cannot sell me on something. You're not just going to sell me on, this is the way it's done, just because this is the way I was taught. That's just because I was taught is not a good reason, and people don't like that about me, and I really don't give a shit. It's I'm always striving to learn more myself, and I'll always, I don't care how many years I end up in this industry, I'm always going to be striving to learn something new. And I think everybody else here should as well. All right. I can tell plenty more anecdotes, I'm sure, about experience versus non-experience. But actually, I got one more quick one, and then I'll end this here. I had a pickup not too long ago, just last month at GT's Living Foods in Vernon, California. You guys might have seen that pickup there. I have it posted here on my YouTube. Right after I docked in there, I went over to the building to go use the restroom, and I was on my way back to my truck. There was another driver, I don't remember I think I remember which company it was, but I don't need to call them out, or make it too obvious who I'm talking about either. They were trying to dock in 2 doors over from me, and they were in the way of me getting back to my truck. So I kind of waited patiently out of the way. What am I going to do? I'm just waiting for my load to get, for him to start loading me anyway. This guy had a hard time getting into his door because the Walmart drop trailer that was in front of our doors. It was in front of my door too. But he had a hard time. His trailer was going in there just fine. at first, but he didn't. He was jammed up on the tractor part of it, and even when it got to a point where I was spotting for him, just giving him thumbs up. Hey, your blind side is like clear by like a mile. Like he had tons of space there on his blind side. He was still basically correcting forward and then making corrections that were not helping him get his tractor out of the jam he was in. And he ended up taking 15 minutes to get into that door. I swear the guy had to have been like a rookie. Then after he got through backing in, because I was already sitting there talking to another driver there who drove for the same company as this person. We're just sitting there chit-chatting. We were both there trying to help him out. And we're just chit-chatting afterward. And next thing you know, the other guy comes up, starts talking to us also, just casual, whether this or that, whatever. And then I find out the guy who was having all this trouble backing in has over 4 million miles of experience. And I'm like beside myself, you got that much experience and you back like that. I mean, I could tell he knew how to control the trailer, get it to do what he wanted it to do, but he had some bad setup correction habits. And yeah, I'm not saying that he sucks at backing because I saw what his corrections were and I knew exactly what he was trying to do with those corrections when I saw them. So I know he had a pretty good idea what he wanted to do, but it was poor execution though. They were not effective setup corrections because otherwise he would have been in that door a hell of a lot faster than he was. Uh, and being a tired driver, that can also have an impact on a driver's ability to back into a spot effectively. But that wasn't the case with this guy. This guy was just experienced 4 million plus mile driver who just sucks at setup corrections. That's all it really is. So again, don't take someone for their don't take someone's whatever number of years or decades of experience as gospel just because that alone. Now, see what they actually say they'll go with it, or what they do to go do that can actually prove to you that they are worth watching or listening to, right? Anyway, that's all I have. Hope you guys got some more good info here. Again, if I'm lucky, I'll be back out on the road tomorrow, but fingers crossed, guys. I don't know. I've told the dealer I'll just call him back in the morning to see what's going on. It's not like I'm going to go pick my truck up tonight anyway. So I'm going to just get me some sleep, and in the morning, if it's ready, I'll get a ride down there, go pick it up, and then let my DM know I'm ready to roll. And hopefully then I'll have some more footage to start recording of pickups and deliveries for you guys again, all right? All right, thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you guys later, hopefully soon. Thanks.